Hello, everyone. Welcome back or welcome to Recovering Out Loud podcast, the show where we get real about mental health and addiction recovery. Today's guest is Bill Ritchie, a certified generational trauma and motivational mindset coach based in Cambridge, Ontario. Bill helps adults who grew up with toxic or emotionally unavailable parents break free from guilt, set healthy boundaries, and start healing for real. His work is deeply personal. Bill grew up in a home filled with emotional and physical abuse and spent years stuck in silence, trying to earn love from a father who never truly saw him. And now he helps others transform that kind of pain into power. He's the creator of the course Breaking Free, a 4-module journey to emotional freedom, and Bill is passionate about helping others reclaim their voice and live life on their own terms. Enjoy the show. Bill Ritchie, thanks for coming down, man. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me. I think I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, you're coming in from Cambridge, Ontario.
Yep.
So I appreciate you coming down. You know, you reached out to me and said you were interested in talking about a little bit different than addiction, but I appreciate it because it all relates back to addiction, right? Like These are, something that I learned pretty late into my recovery is that alcohol and drugs are not my problem. They're my solution to my underlying problems, right? And I'm excited to talk to you today about, trauma and generational trauma, because these are all things that I had no idea what they meant before, but I'm learning that they play a really big part in a lot of people's lives in addiction, and mine certainly as well, right? Why don't you explain, your definition or the definition of trauma?
Yeah, so trauma and generational trauma specifically is basically pain that's passed down through families, right? So I don't know your full story, but maybe in a person who's having a problem with addiction, maybe their father was an alcoholic, maybe their grandmother was, or another family member, right? So sometimes that's the only thing you see as a child, right? So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of it.
Yeah. And so it doesn't even have to just be like alcoholism or addiction too, right? Like, let's say, for example, someone's grandparents was, for extreme example, the Holocaust or a part of the Holocaust. And I'm learning that trauma gets kind of passed down. Is that right? Like in some sort of way?
Yeah, I can't speak to that specifically, but it's the same kind of thing, right? So like in my situation, we'll be talking more about this as we progress today, with, dealing with difficult, toxic parents, right? All that stuff is passed down in trauma and families as well. Because people have never broken that cycle. They've never fixed it, right? They've never, or especially they've never healed themselves. Right. So it's the only thing they know, and they pass it down to their kids, grandkids.
Yeah. So why don't you talk a little bit about your experience with trauma then?
Yeah. So mine's been fun. So I grew up. So basically my mom and my dad got divorced when I was 2. So I never remember my original parents together. And then my dad got, long story, you don't need to go into all of it, but my dad got basically custody of me. I only got to see my mom every third weekend, right? So, and then when I was about 5, 6, close to 6 years old, my dad met a lady, which in turn turned into my stepmother. So my stepmother physically and emotionally abused me for many years, from roughly the age of 6 to 13, 14, when I started to rebel and come out of that a little bit. And then with my dad, I just never felt heard from him. There's like just no emotion. My dad worked a lot. He didn't see any of this abuse shit coming from my stepmother, right? So,
and it's hard, like, how do you can't even begin to think about how you would bring that up to him too, right? Like, it's so hard.
And the abuser has such a hold on you. Right, and all the threats on you, where I still had a relationship with my mom as well, but I couldn't even tell my mom, right? If I had the courage when I was younger to be able to tell my mom, then stuff would have stopped. My mom would have jumped in, right? So,
what was the moment for you where you kind of realized that, one, you could heal from this, but also that it was a problem in the first place?
I didn't really. It sounds crazy, but I didn't really figure a lot of this stuff out till I was getting into my 30s. Full disclosure, I'm 53 right now. So in my teens and 20s is when I started to lean on alcohol. I started to just party to try to escape that. Even though she couldn't physically abuse me anymore because I was getting bigger, there was still that emotional stuff. And I find like the emotional is tougher.
Absolutely.
You know? So I never full on got, I guess, labeled as being like an alcoholic or addicted or anything, but that was my escape, right? In my late teens, 20s. So then fast forward, get into my 30s, that's when I got married the first time. And then grandkids come along. So then you just kind of play the family game still. Like they both, my dad and my stepmother both treated my grandkids like they were fine. I never let them stay over, just because of my past, right? So, to get to your question, I didn't really start it didn't start to come to a head quick. I guess I parked a lot of it. I put a lot of it on the back burner. I never got help. I just kind of dealt with it. That was always the norm for me. So it wasn't until into my probably mid 30s, almost 40s, that I started to get some flashbacks, get some nightmares from shit from the past.
Almost like PTSD.
Yeah, pretty much. And even then, right away, I didn't go seek help. But finally, I just had enough, and I got went to some therapy, got some counseling. But that was interesting, and can maybe go into more of this later. But like, I thought it was all going to be about my stepmother and the abuse, but a lot of it came back to my dad and not being able to talk to my dad, right? So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I find that therapy is very helpful. I always advocate for professional help, and that's why, I love having professionals like yourself on here talk about their experience, because you go into therapy thinking that this is the problem, and it becomes this whole other gamut of issues that you had no idea even were there, right? And that's the point of therapy, is you kind of dig through that and deal with it as it comes and how it shows up in your life today. How does it show up in your life today?
Yeah, today I have it pretty much under control, and that's why I want to help others with it from all my experience. But hey, man, there's still triggers. There's still triggers that come up. It could be something as simple as this is nothing against overweight people, but my stepmother was overweight, right? So I'll be in a grocery store just buying apples, and I hear this lady in the background has the same voice, same shape, almost same look, and it's like, whoa, right? That just kind of triggers you. So in that moment, I've learned now some exercises and stuff that I teach is just like, I have to ground myself, I have to take a minute, take a breath, or even maybe just get away from that particular aisle in the grocery store where the lady is, right? So the triggers still come up for sure.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting. I never realized that. Yeah. Like any, in my alcoholism and addiction, I found that, there was a lot of things that could trigger me. I remember them telling me in treatment, and I'm thinking of this because it is kind of related. You could be hanging out with friends that weren't using or drinking, but just something about their mannerisms, you could tell they were either hungover or high, and that would send you into a whirlwind of kind of triggers and memories. And, for me, it's remembering like the 1 hour of good times that I had with drugs and alcohol out of the night, and not necessarily like the rest of the night. And that's why in addiction, they say, playing the tape forward is such a powerful tool, because you be honest with yourself, like, how did that night end? It wasn't like, good night, guys. Like, that was great, in the movies, right? It was like me continuing on the party by myself, right? And that's when I kind of realized that I had a huge problem with it, right? So you work with people today. You've developed a program, I guess you could call it, too, as well.
Yeah, an online course. I do one-on-one coaching, and then I wanted to kind of bring all the knowledge that I have from it into an easy online course. People can purchase a course and get on there and just work at their own pace. And it's lifetime access, so you can always refer back to it. It was pretty. So kind of putting into a course what I do in my practice, or some of the tools I would use in practice. A little different because one-on-one, there's always other things that might come up, right? So I offer those two options.
Yeah. And like probably combining the two would be the most effective strategy, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And it depends on the problem. My main niche, my main focus is, dealing with toxic parents or difficult parents, however you want to word it. I do one-on-one coaching with other things as well. But people are just stressed out or are stuck and they can't move forward. But that's my primary niche.
So yeah, it's interesting. And I want to talk about emotional abuse because I didn't realize how powerful it was. I remember, you hear this stupid saying like sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Like, is that not the most false thing ever, right?
Exactly. I almost rather have the sticks and stones.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think most men would too, right? Like I always said that I'd rather get punched in the face than somebody have a deep cut at me about my past or something that I'm dealing with, or my, for me, like something, my body image, or, what I mean? Something that just, because that you take that and then you use it over and over again on yourself and you beat yourself up. Right.
Absolutely.
So like, what else, what kind of, I don't know, I guess what kind of emotional, like what does emotional abuse look like? What can you describe maybe how it's hard to kind of find out and seek out and.
Yeah, and maybe different for everybody, but a lot of similarities. I know it sounds like I'm contradicting myself, right? But emotional abuse is kind of that thing you can't see, right? Somebody you're talking about, somebody punches you in the face. You see a husband beating a wife, you can see the physical thing. Sorry, but the emotional is so hard. Like it affects your self-esteem, your confidence. I struggled with my self-confidence for years, man. It took me forever to get confident, right? The only time I was confident was when I was playing hockey for some reason. I was in that rink and I was like, nobody could touch me, right? But yeah, emotionally, it's just when you get beaten down emotionally, and it's just like a continuous thing and that's all you know, it affects so many other aspects in your life, right? It affects your relationships, how you handle stress. It's just a whole gamut of really, really, really tough abuse to come out of.
Yeah. And you mentioned one of the, practical things that you could do to kind of get it. Because I believe that's a healthy kind of escape coping mechanism is activity, right? Yep. And I used hockey a lot to escape too when I was growing up. Yep. But I remember being a kid and I went through a phase where I was getting into fights a lot on the ice. And, now looking back, I realized that was some kind of angst that I was, holding and it was coming out on the ice. So there's kind of a positive and a negative to it where if you could also use it negatively, right?
That's ironic because I fought a bit too.
Yeah,
I'm not a big guy, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
back in our day, you could fight without getting kicked out.
Yeah, there's a reason too, right? Yeah. So it's interesting that, and not everybody does that. So what are some other habits, daily practical tools that people can use to either heal from trauma or begin to heal from trauma?
Yeah, well, it's seeking help through a coach like myself, or if there's some really deep-rooted stuff, a counselor, a therapist. On the day-to-day, what we teach you to do a little bit too is journaling, some breathing exercises to help, regulate your nervous system, because that's huge, right? Like, why am I so wound up? Why can't I calm down? You know what I mean? So it's kind of some daily things like that. I would suggest just off the top.
What kind of journaling do you either practice or kind of teach to your clients? Because I know, a lot of people and myself included, when I got into journaling, I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to write. Yeah. What do you think?
That's exactly the same. Yeah. Exactly the same. One thing I'm personally using a lot right now is just basically a basic brain dump. Right. And I use that before bed. Journaling, for those that are comfortable with it, you can do it on the daily. You could be on your lunch break and something happened that morning at work. And even if, like, my wife does it on her phone, right? So, oh, well, I didn't like how my boss talked to me earlier today or whatever, right? Or it's just something you might do more comfortably in the evening. But to get back to my brain dump thing, I'm the type of person, always have been, that I struggle with sleep, because the mind's racing sometimes, right? So when you're all emotionally screwed up or whatever, it's called like a brain dump. Maybe just write on a piece of paper. It could just be like spit out a word, right? Pissed off, frustrated, right? My girlfriend was mean to me today, or her husband was a jerk or something like that. Yeah. You get some of that stuff out on paper, right? Even if it doesn't make any sense on the paper, you could read it the next day and like, what the hell is that, right? But that personally really helps me.
Yeah, I liken it to, you have bandwidth, like internet bandwidth, right? And you have a certain bandwidth in your brain that you can handle so many thoughts at once.
Yep.
And even from a creative perspective, if you're constantly purging that, right, and getting it out on paper, and it doesn't have to make sense, right? But if you're constantly getting that out and purging it, you're freeing up more space for hopefully good thoughts to come in, right? Because I can't imagine like you constantly writing bad thoughts and then it's just like a never-ending flow of bad thoughts. Maybe for some people,
for sure. Even if I'll wake up in the middle of the night, I just have like a good idea, right? I could use that in the next session with a client. I'll write that down. So you're right. It doesn't always have to be a negative thing, right?
Yeah. Do you practice meditation at all or teach meditation?
I don't teach it. I don't practice. I'm trying to get into it. It's more of a mindfulness thing for me. One thing I am, so I'm not coming on here trying to say, I'm a guru in that field, right? Just being honest.
We have enough of those.
Okay. Yeah. Just being honest. But hey, I would love to be able to sit there. But one thing I do in the morning. So they say we're not supposed to go onto our devices first thing in the morning, right? It just kills your brain, right? I'm guilty of it. You shut your alarm. Everything's on your phone now, right? You shut your alarm off on the phone. You check, emails,
appointments for the day.
Yeah, right? So what I try to do when I first get out of bed, go to the washroom, come back, I just like close my eyes, and they do this thing where not, that's kind of a form of meditation, but I just do something, whatever, with my hands, and I just sit there. And even if it's kind of like a little mantra you make up, I don't have an official mantra, but it's just like, okay, I can do this. I'm going to do this. Let's do this. Like something simple, and just repeat it. I got it from Mind Valley. You heard of Mind Valley?
No.
So Mind Valley is a pretty big, counseling and thing online. So the gentleman's name's escaping me. I'll remember as soon as
the door.
Home, I'll email you that. But anyway, really, really good guy. He's, you start at, say, maybe doing it for a minute or 2 minutes, right? And then like you count back 60, 29, and you just repeat the same things, whatever that works for you, right? And then you break it down. Then it goes down to 25 seconds. And then maybe it's just 10 seconds once you get used to doing it. And this isn't just something you should do in the morning. If you're stressed out at work or you're having a moment, if you have some privacy, you can go and do that. You can go to the bathroom if you need to, right? And just, okay, calm down. I'm going to be okay. I got this,
Yeah, I love that. And you incorporated an important part too. It's this body awareness, body scan thing too, where you're like, like when's the last time you focused on the feeling of your skin, right? Even as I do it now, it's just like, I don't do this enough, you know? It's like walking in nature, same thing. Yeah. Well, I do it all the time where I'm walking down, and I live, downtown. There's trees downtown. You just don't see them, right? Yeah. But every once in a while I'll be walking, and if I'm in a good place or I'm focusing on being mindful, I'm looking around and I'm like, holy shit, I've never seen that tree before. Like, it's beautiful, right? And then it just kind of, I don't know, it sets up your day to notice all the good in the world and even the good in yourself too, right? And this kind of, you talked about confidence, and I think that's extremely important. The most important conversation that we have with ourselves, and I'm not making this up, I've heard this so many times, is the one with yourself, right?
Exactly.
So how did you come from that kind of difficult, traumatic past and start building confidence in yourself?
Took a lot of practice, not going to lie. Because I would just start feeling good, thinking, hey, I can do this. And then something in my head would knock me back
down to zero. Yeah.
Say, no, you can't. Oh, I can't do that. You kidding me? No way. I can't do that. And a lot of that was from my stepmother's emotional abuse of like, you're worthless. You can't do that. Who are you? So that it just got ingrained in me. Right. So, I mentioned before, but through sport like hockey gave me a lot of confidence, but you're not at hockey all the time. Yeah. Right? How do you get through your day with that? So it's just a lot of practice, a lot of self-care, a lot of commitment to it, just like committing to the gym. I don't know. I go to the gym every second day, not because I love it, not because I'm super buff, but because I need it. I need to stay on track. So just don't have the magic pill. It's just a lot of practice, really.
And I think that's that's the key, is like there's no shortcuts to healing in all facets of life, right? I love the gym analogy because I sit here today honestly telling you I cannot remember the last time I wanted to go to the gym. It's been a while, right? But I'm always it's this like I'm in a comfortable place. There's a gap between comfort and discomfort.
Yep.
I have to start, right? It's the hardest part is starting anything.
Yeah.
I have to get through that uncomfortable place, and then I'm at the gym and I'm like, oh, that wasn't so bad, and now I can work out, and it doesn't have to be the most amazing, documentable workout, right?
Exactly.
Where people are cheering, and I'm like you said, I'm not there to get huge.
Yep.
I was at one point, that was a motive of mine, but that doesn't work, right? That motivation runs out. You have to go to kind of push through those perceived limits in life.
Yeah, I love how you said push through. It's like pushing through is like the best thing you can do for yourself, right? Even yesterday, I have some stomach issues, so my stomach was off yesterday. I'm like, no, it's gym day, I gotta go. So I went to the gym, pushed through, and 9 times out of 10, I'll feel better after doing it, right? Yeah. So, yeah.
You never regret doing it after, right?
Yeah.
And that's such an important part. So the Breaking Free course, it's called, right? Breaking Free. Can you like describe an example of maybe a module or something that, without giving away the secret sauce? But...
Yeah, no, absolutely. So it's Breaking Free, a 4-module journey to emotional freedom. Each module has its own importance, but one example of one of the modules is one of my favorite modules. Module 2 is boundaries, setting boundaries and setting boundaries without guilt. That's just so huge, taking the first step in dealing with a toxic parent, right? Yeah. And with each module, each module has, if I can explain just a little bit about the course.
Please.
Yeah, so each module has a short video. I didn't want to overwhelm people with a 20, 30-minute video of Coach Bill just talking about, but it's, so the videos are fairly short, but then you also have a workbook exercise. So it's got like exercises, some things you can try, some tips on journaling, not per module, but per lesson. Mm-hmm. So there's 4 lessons inside each module. So it's everything from understanding toxic parents to setting boundaries to healing, emotional healing like we were talking about. And then the last module touches on those triggers, because those triggers are pretty huge.
And they're lifelong, they don't leave you, right? They don't just magically disappear. It's how we deal with them. We can't control them, but it's how my reaction to them that matters. Yeah. You mentioned you mentioned 2 good things that I want to get into, but let's start with emotional freedom. What does that mean to you today?
Emotional freedom means everything, and sometimes can't believe I'm here now, right? Because you're just, I felt so trapped in all the emotional abuse I took from my stepmother specifically, and then not being able to talk to my dad emotionally, right? I just couldn't go to my dad and say, hey, this is what's going on, I had a rough day or whatever, right? Mm. So to have that freedom through many years of healing is just, it's like that weight is just lifted off your shoulders, right? Because I know a lot of us, maybe a lot of your listeners, myself included, like you just feel so stuck. Like, am I ever going to get out of this?
Yeah, that's the big one. Yeah.
So when you finally reach it, it's like, and then you just want to stay there.
Yeah. But that's not possible, right? No. But it's the point is to recognize it and then to get back to that kind of place of, to me, it almost sounds like what other people do, other people's actions don't dictate my life, right? Exactly. And don't dictate who I am. Yeah. For a long time, it sounds like that was your identity, right? Was how she kind of portrayed you. Yeah. And then, it's a beautiful thing to kind of break free of this emotional bondage, if you will, and become this sort of new man or woman who was always there, right? You're not like, it's not like a character or anything. It's just kind of doing that inner work. And that's why today, like I find, I try to surround myself with successful people, and that's a very dangerous word, successful, right? Because it, to me, success, and to a lot of people, success might be that boat or that car or that, the white picket fence or family or whatever. Family is an important one for me, for sure. But success to me is like, am I working on myself, right? Am I trying to be a better person, period, end of story? Am I working? And so I try to surround myself with people who are working on themselves, I don't care what they have or, but who are they at their core? Do they recognize their flaws and opportunities, and are they trying to improve that? Because that makes me want to be a better person, right? Surrounding myself with people, Took me a while to get there, I would say.
It does.
Because that boat seems nice until you get it, right?
Yeah,
and then it's like, oh, now I want 2 boats.
Yeah, exactly.
Or I need a cottage with this boat, right?
Yeah, also with just if I can finish off on that, if you don't mind, just also knowing that you're not responsible for their shit. Another way to put it. Sorry.
Absolutely. No, you can swear. It's okay.
I try not to, but yeah. So like, because in so many situations with parents specifically, like the guilt they lay on you, you're responsible for them having a bad day, right? So to be emotionally free of that now is pretty sweet.
Yeah. And like all facets of your life, if somebody's pissed off at you, it's like, this is your problem.
Exactly.
And you need to, or not, you need to deal with this or not. But I'm not going to be responsible for, I love
be that person's punching bag.
Yeah, exactly. Or a doormat, you know.
Exactly.
I can be a good person today, but I don't have to be a doormat. That's what I was told when I came in. You don't have to let people run all over. I think there's a big difference between like letting go and acceptance and being a punching bag, like you said. And sometimes it's hard to navigate that. But.
Yeah, for sure.
And then the other thing was boundaries. I love that. Oh man, I used to hate that word so much, right? What are boundaries? Yeah, why don't you just...
Yeah, so boundaries, and some people may think, and I used to think years ago that boundaries was for the other person. That is so incorrect. Boundaries are for you, and it's a way of you healing and for your own personal peace. I like to use the analogy of you're on a beach and drawing that line in the sand, right? Okay, well, I'm only going to allow you to cross this line if you're respecting my boundaries, right? And it's not always the easy. I focus a lot in the course on it because it was not easy for me personally to set the boundaries with my father, right? You just find yourself, okay, I'm going to have this boundary. I'm going to say, okay, I'm not gonna do that. And then as soon as they start, you're like, yes, okay, yes, I'll do that. Yes, right.
So true. Yeah. It's one thing to have the boundary, and then to implement it is a whole other. Execution is the hardest.
Yeah, and
part.
a lot of times with a parent, we're always told, whatever your story is, that respect your parents, right? At least from my generation, right? I'm a bit older than you, but so then when you set that boundary, you feel guilty. You feel guilty for setting that boundary, or you set the boundary and they don't respect the boundary, right? Yeah. So then you're like,
now what?
What? Yeah. So,
what was a boundary that kind of changed your life, or so something that really helped you? A boundary.
I think it was specifically, like I said, with my dad, and it was just, I would need to be heard, right? Because this could be a long story here, but so I have a stepbrother from my stepmother's son, and it's almost like my stepbrother and my dad have a closer relationship than I do. So for example, I go over to his house and it's all talking about him.
Yeah.
Well, I'm here, I'm your son. That's great that you have a good relationship with him, right? I'm not jealous of that, but where's the relationship here, right? So I had to set a boundary, was like, I don't want to hear about Jay right now. I'm here. If you like to talk about what's going on in my life, your life, that's great. If not, I just can't do that.
Yeah. Right? That hits so close to home. I know a few people in my life that have that problem,
really?
Where you're together, you're spending time with family, said family member, and the only topic of conversation, it always comes back to other family member.
Exactly.
It's exhausting. Right?
It is.
So that's tough to have that conversation, with that must have been a hard thing to do.
Yeah. And I don't know if he's fully gotten it in that moment. He was a, little taken back. And then, so I don't want to refer to him as a bully, but it's almost like when you stand up to a bully, right? They usually back down. Yeah. Not always. There's some, and I have some people I talk to, some clients I talk to that just, they've tried to set boundaries and it just has not worked for them. So then it's space. It's like time out. I need some space away from you until you can start respecting those boundaries. Yeah. Right. And it doesn't have to be 50 boundaries. It can just be what's important to you.
Yeah. Start with one.
Right.
Yeah. And then I love that. The other thing about boundaries too is the result of the boundary is, like you said, it's so what I was taught in treatment this last time, because we did a lot of work on trauma and boundaries, is the boundary is the point of the boundary is to strengthen the relationship,
Right.
instead of, a lot of people think, like you said, you draw this line in the sand and you're over there, I'm over here, and it's going to stay that way. It actually brings people closer together. Yeah. Can you explain that a little bit? Like what?
Yeah, for sure, because you're you're finally asking for a little respect, right? Go back to hockey again. So I used to coach hockey as well, and you'll have some coaches that are like, you got to respect the coach, right? Or teacher, right? You got to respect me. You got to respect me. But I never believed in that. I always believed like I would have a beginning of the year meeting with the kids and the parents, right? And I would always say, okay, as a good player, you need to respect the coaches and what we're trying to teach you and whatever. On the flip side of that, as a coach, I need to earn your respect, because the respect is earned, not given. Sorry if I veered off a little bit.
No,
to your question,
it's
right?
good.
But yeah, so it's you're saying it can bring you closer together for sure, because that person may not even fully realize. Like my father was like, he never talked to his parents. Yeah. And that's all part of how the generational trauma can come down, right? So he didn't have a clue on how to talk about anything. And even to this day, it's very basic. I'm not saying we have like a perfect relationship or anything like that, but finally I'm living on more my terms now, right? Talk about my brother. Hey, whatever, that's great, right? But I'm here right now in the moment. So I think that brought us a little closer to the point of at least he understands that a touch better now. It's not perfect, but
yeah, it's almost like, hey, there's this, you're not the problem, Dad, but there's an issue on the table here. Yeah. How can we work together as a team to sort of address that issue, right? It's not, don't make it personal. It's not about me versus you. Yeah. Right. It's Let's attack this problem together. And then, absolutely. It brings us closer in the long run, because hey, I didn't even realize I was doing that, man. Like, I'm sorry, or maybe it's not sorry. I know it's my dad. Can be hard for that generation.
There's no apologies usually. But
sometimes.
If they at least get the understanding of where you're coming from, I think that's all we want, right? Yeah. To have that.
That it's not, me versus you. I think that's the important part. It's let's get closer together and, solve this.
Because there's a way to set those boundaries where like you don't want the person to feel attacked either. Yeah. Even though they may have not respected you your whole life, because you come out like anybody, right? They'll come at you aggressively. What are you going to do? Yeah. You're going to stand up and defend yourself. Yeah. Oh, this guy's coming at me, right? So
that's actually an important point too, is the language around it, right? Yes. So what does that look like to you? Like, how do you kind of word that? Because words are important.
I think it's using I statements.
Yes, yeah.
If you heard of I statements. So I statement is something it's not like you did that to me and I don't like it. It'd more be like, I didn't appreciate how you reacted in that moment towards me. Or if somebody's like cutting you off all the time, you could say, I would just like to finish my sentence before you respond.
Yeah. Or I feel disrespected. I was taught the I feel too, right? The I statements are important.
Yeah, the I feels are good.
Because you can't argue with feelings, right? Yeah. You can argue thoughts and ideas and points, but Dad, I feel hurt when you cut me off. And I think that's uncomfortable to hear for some people. Why are we getting all mushy gushy now, right? But they're affecting your feelings in a certain way. And that's, if they love you, and they care about you, they should want to address that, right? And do whatever it takes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Do you have any like specific cases, and you don't have to break anonymity or anything, but any clients or cases that, really shaped your kind of career or motivate you to keep doing what you're doing?
Yeah. There's one specific, but there's the one lady, actually we went to school together, when I was getting certified to become a coach. And when I first started out, I wasn't in this particular niche of coaching, right? I was just, hey, I'm a life coach now, and I started trying to help people. But the more everything came back to me and I started talking to this lady, she was going through almost exactly the same crap that I was going through, that I grew up with. Once again, like she felt like the black sheep in her family, kind of like I do, right? So that was kind of a, hey, and then I talked to a few other people that are having similar upbringings, right? So that was kind of how I got into it all, right? And so I did some free coaching with her, you know, because we knew each other and we were friends and everything like that. So it was really, and she thought it was great. She thought it was helpful how a lot of it, how she brought out a lot of it. And 75% of coaching is basically listening to people, right? I don't know how much I mentioned about my mom, but I didn't see my mom much growing up, but I'm super tight, super close with my mom now, right? I can talk to my mom about anything. She can talk to me about anything, right? But not everybody has that. You know, maybe their parent, their mom or their father that they had a good relationship is passed on now. Now they're just dealing with the toxic parent, right? So, so this lady really, that was a good sign for me to, hey, I can help people do this just from my experience, and then realizing I'm not the only one. Yeah. Because it's so easy to feel like you're the only one that has to deal with this shit. Yeah. Right. But the more people you talk to, coaching or not coaching, it's like, yeah, I got family shit too. Oh yeah, you know, maybe it's not just a parent, maybe it's a brother or a sibling or something, right?
Yeah. Yeah. One of the biggest things when you come into addiction and recovery and alcoholism is, you know, you are no longer alone is a big slogan that I hear a lot. And it's so true, right? Like I was taught, I'm not terminally unique, you know? My problems are very universal problems. And, you know, just because the guy sitting next to me has, you know, been through 4 DUIs or, you know, 6 lost marriages or whatever on paper, it's like we have the same feelings about how we react to life, and we have the same solution, quote unquote, which drugs and alcohol. So there's like a common, you know, there's a common element there where we can heal together now. We both have a solution to the problem, and, you know, we can conspire that way. And there's a lot of camaraderie in that too, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's amazing. I think it's important to, and the other thing too is like you don't know that you're no longer alone if you don't talk about it, right? Exactly. Because you stay unique if you keep it in and you keep, and that's one of the reasons why I started to do this, is because I wanted people to hear things that I had to say, but other people had to say, where they're like, oh yeah, me too. Yeah. I'm like that.
Yeah. When you hear that me too, it's like, wow, that makes you feel inclusive and makes you feel good, right?
There's a lot of power in that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Is there anything that we didn't talk about maybe that you would like to get into, or anything that I may have missed?
I think you've covered everything pretty well. Once again, I'll probably think of something after I'm out of here, but
how can people find you, Bill? Like how do we find you?
Yeah. So I got the course happening, but the easiest way probably is just on my website. So that's coachbillforyou.com. Also on socials, Instagram, Facebook, a little bit on TikTok, but mainly Facebook and LinkedIn as well. So under, you know, Coach Bill. So not to be confused with Coach Bill Belichick from the NHL, because sometimes I was starting all this, I just Google search. Oh, okay, he's first. I guess he's a little more popular.
Yeah. I mean, and for maybe reasons he doesn't like to, right? Yeah. Either. There's a lot of controversy around that too. Exactly. Amazing. Thank you so much, Bill. I learned a lot today. I think it's important to continue the conversation, and I don't think we'll ever completely break the stigma around mental health, but I think the more we talk about it, the less and less, and the more people hopefully say me too.
I appreciate that. And one thing I just thought of, just as you were saying that closure here, is as guys, it is, I don't want to say tougher to talk than females or any other, but like I was brought up, like, you don't talk about your feelings, you know, you don't cry, you suck it up. Yeah. Right. So that's a big one too. And I'm really looking at that as another aspect of my coaching as well. Yeah. So, but I appreciate the opportunity. I think what you're doing here is fantastic too.
Thank you.
And you're prime example of overcoming some pretty heavy obstacles. So
there is a solution, you know, there is a way out, there's another way. And it turns out it's not my way, you know, but there is a way. Yeah. Thanks so much, Bill.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks for listening. Please help us grow the channel and like, share, and subscribe for more content. The discussions and stories shared on this podcast are for informational and motivational purposes only. This content is not a substitute for professional medical advice, addiction treatment, or therapy. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, please consult a licensed physician, addiction specialist, or mental health professional. You are no longer alone.